Hi everyone, Nova back here again from Bright Outlook Counselling Service. This is take 2 tonight. We've had a few problems, a few glitches with Facebook. It just happened. There it just happened again. Okay, every now and then Facebook updates and it does really strange things like this. So all I can do is persevere and keep starting it because I've just started a new live stream and it's doing it again. So I'm just going to wait for David to jump back in, and yeah, we'll try it again, guys. Otherwise, I don't know what we're going to do. But yeah, please join in again, guys. Say hi, whereabouts you're from, and yeah, we'll get on with the show, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it won't be quite as bad as it was before. So I'm just waiting for David to appear, and as soon as he's here, I'll let him in. Okay, just a bit of chit chat while we're waiting for that to happen. Guys, as you know, World Narcissistic Abuse Awareness Day. Hi, Carol. Carol's back again. We've got Dee Irvin there. Hi, Dee. Vicky Morgan's there. Hi, Vicky. Nicole Francis is there. Dee's from Australia, and David's back again. Now, guys, this is, hold on, I'll just let David in because I think this is going to be a glitch tonight. Hi, we've got Jan there from California. Hi, Jan. Yeah, David, I just started again and it did the same thing. So I think Facebook's probably updating like it was last time when we had all those dramas.
Yeah, this has happened before. I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was because of Facebook updating. We've got Mark back again. Hi, Mark. So look, it just keeps telling it's just going to pause. So I'm just going to press, and we're just going to have to persevere with it. But there's not much I can do.
Okay. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, Facebook is doing this to us. It's just such a pain. But anyway, yeah, guys. So pre-warning. Facebook glitch, it's probably going to pause all the time, and that's okay. I'll unpause it, but just so you know what's going on. Okay, David, what are we talking about tonight?
Oh, big topic.
Big topic. Oh, right on the night when we got the Facebook glitch. Oh,
So I thought we should talk about shame. Yeah.
yeah, good topic.
Yeah. I mean, something that follows and accompanies trauma and abuse, and helping people for a little while now, and working with victims. What I think this is what most of this is all about. Afterwards, we want to, buddy, I truly believe this, just want to be good people. And shame is the opposite of that. Shame is feeling like a bad person. And it really is. If really people just want to be a good person, and most emotional pain and suffering after abuse and trauma is people just concerned about being a bad person. I should have seen this coming. Why didn't I notice this sooner? Why didn't I leave earlier? How did I not see the abuse happening? How did I not see them cheating on me, and lies and all this stuff? So it's just tons of shame and guilt. And I think the biggest part of my job working with people is just to let them know that they're okay. They're not a bad person. And once they really feel that, the shame can go away. But shame is caused by an incident. It's an experience, and you can't make it go away, the experience, but you can make the bad feelings go away. You don't have to feel bad about some of this stuff anymore. So once you can come to terms with it all and feel better, then the emotional pain goes away, usually.
Yeah.
That's what I've noticed.
Yeah, and I guess if you think about it, you know, how could victims not feel shame with, what they've been, the way they've been conditioned, by their abusers. Everything's their fault, and it happens so slowly. They don't even know it's that they're actually being, brainwashed and told, you know, that with that blame shifting, you know, I wouldn't have done this if it wasn't for you. Everything is flipped. And, you know, with that constant gaslighting, you know, we're taught to believe that it's our fault. So if you see, you know, the red flags, we own it. You know, we take it on as being, well, you know, we played some part in that at the very least. And of course, because we're not disordered, when we come out of this, we feel like utter shame at, you know, at the fact that not only did we stay and endure this abuse, looking back now we can see the red flags, but as you know, a lot of victims, you know, ask the question, am I narcissistic? Because, you know, I retaliated and I acted just like them, and I became this person I don't even recognize. You know, I can't believe I acted like that. And of course, with that comes absolute immense shame for behaving in ways that is just not them.
That's right. That's right. I mean, how's a victim supposed to react to abuse? And that's important. We've covered reactionary abuse. And, you know, we follow a timeline and we don't like how we reacted. And that's good. It's good we don't like how we reacted. And we can change that in the future. We can't change it in the past, but we can change how we feel about it by trying to understand everything, understand it all. And that's just a big part of shame. Um, I use an example, and I don't know if I've said it on this show, but I think it's important. I think we should know the difference between shame and guilt as well. People are confused by shame and guilt, and they are different. And guilt is I did something bad, where shame is I'm a bad person. Guilt can be relieved by an apology, time, things like this. But shame doesn't. Shame doesn't go away with time, and we carry it around with us forever until we face it and deal with it. You can see people suffering from shame everywhere. You can, through addictions and even working too much and things like this. And it's people trying to cover up and hide and suppress and numb how they feel about themselves. And if you feel like you're a bad person, it's really hard to prepare yourself to make good decisions for yourself. You know, so a degree of entering a relationship and being abused, I believe you have to have a degree of shame in the first place. I think everyone has shame. I think everyone does. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's and that's another problem, isn't it? You have shame, you enter a relationship, you kind of, the red flags might go over your head because usually it's about how we feel about ourselves. We don't see those things, or that's how we grew up. It's accepted. We accept little bits at a time, and then shame piles on to more shame and more shame. You know, I did something because I don't feel good about myself, and then afterwards I feel ashamed of myself that I did that, and it just compiles and it grows and it gets bigger and bigger. And we need to alleviate ourselves of this. We can't carry this on forever because it causes disease, it causes bad behavior choices, and we can suffer from it forever. Forever, we need to face it and deal with it.
Yeah. Um, and I guess that the shame can work in, you know, a couple of different ways, in that it can keep, you know, people stuck in these relationships because of what you just mentioned, which is, you know, the shame compounds on top of shame, on top of shame, on top of shame, until it becomes too, I guess, shameful to admit what you're enduring, you know, to admit what you're uh, being subjected to, in that, you've been so used to being blamed for everything in the abusive relationship, that, you're worried that the community or family or friends are going to shame you for not leaving. So, you know, as we know, victims very often defend the abuse,
Mm-hmm.
you know, stay with the abuse because it's just too shameful to admit that they are being abused.
Absolutely. Yeah. it's hard to reach out for help when you're so ashamed of asking for it. And it very much will keep you inside a very toxic, abusive relationship that you're ashamed of divulging to anyone else. Um, there's a saying that I really believe is true, and that's we date our own emotional self-worth. And uh, the things you saw wrong with the person that you and decided to spend your life with, those kind of measures how you feel about yourself. And it's really important to know that as you heal from this and as you become healthier, you're also building up your self-worth so that you don't date someone like this again. I hope. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay, yeah, guys, look, if you've got any, need to apologize again, guys. It's going to keep pausing, and I have no control over it, so I just have to keep starting it. So yeah, if you're just joining, Facebook glitch tonight, it keeps pausing, but we'll just keep resuming it, so don't go anywhere.
I
Yeah.
notice it's been pausing, and then when it happens, it's hard to hear you afterwards. Is everyone, can everyone hear us? Okay.
Oh, I'm sure they'll let us know. Um, Yeah, what a pain. Don't do this to us tonight. Okay. Well, yeah, guys, if you've got any experiences with, no, someone said it's been fine. So, yeah,
Okay.
yep, see how it goes, David. I think it was Jessica said, but before I get on to Jessica's question, guys, yeah, if you've got any experiences that you want to, I guess, really how you found it either difficult to leave the relationship or, difficult to come to terms with that shame. Yeah, perhaps you'd like to talk about them so someone else here tonight might be able to, draw on that to know that, that it's just not your fault. And that's what, David and I want to, I guess, reiterate tonight, that this shame you feel is not warranted, and we really need to work on alleviating that shame so that you can go on one day and have a healthy relationship, and most importantly a healthy relationship with yourself. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. Jessica says, hey guys, I'm just curious, what causes a person to become narcissistic? David.
Well, the disorder itself, I mean, narcissism is a spectrum that we are all on. We all have some degree of narcissism in us. And the disorder is a developmental problem in childhood. So it's still being decided by doctors and professionals what causes it, but it's definitely due to inappropriate parenting. So you know, all kinds of things. Child's needs aren't met. There might be trauma, abuse, neglect, abandonment, but it's very, very inappropriate parenting where the child becomes somewhat addicted to feeling special or unique and is trained to believe that it's his world and we're all in it. And that's how he grows up. That's how he's developed. And there are things that they never finished developing the emotional part of their life, such as things like empathy. That's why they're lacking empathy. Children lack empathy, and it's developed throughout their childhood. Things like trauma can halt development in children. That's a very common reason why children later become narcissists. But narcissism can be caused by different things, and that's the spectrum that we are all on. But narcissistic personality disorder requires a certain criteria for that. That
Yeah.
helps. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess we probably should reiterate that not all children, in saying that the parenting is what causes it, and trauma. This is what the research is saying, and once, as David said, there is no strict, absolute black and white research around this, but the majority of research says it's not trauma. during what is it, about the age of 4 or 6. That's when the empathy switches off, and the false persona starts to build. But we should say that not every child of an inappropriate parent, as in a narcissistic parent, gets, develops that NPD, because as you know, you'll have, siblings that are very, very, high on the narcissistic spectrum, and other children that for some reason aren't affected, and they'll grow up to be adult children of narcissistic parents. So it's said to be environmental, but the research is just really not 100% clear, is it, David? But it's certainly,
No,
yeah.
and it's important to note that with all 10 personality disorders, there's some degree of genetics,
Yeah,
culture. So genetics, culture, and family is what shapes who we are and who we become. Though there is a component to that, but I believe it's mostly environmental and how we're raised by our parents. I believe it's a developmental problem. But yeah, and don't forget, you're right, that every person reacts differently. So you could have the same experience and two children grow up totally different.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so I hope that's explained it for you, Jessica. Okay. Oh, Carol wanted us to talk about a little bit about triangulation, David. So I think it was you, Carol, if I remember correctly, before we had to start the live stream over again. But yeah, triangulation is about, gosh, how should I explain? Triangulation is about pitting people against each other, so that I guess the narcissist is able basically to watch drama unfold and remain untouched by all the drama. So, you don't even have to know each other for a narcissist to triangulate you with someone else. You could be being triangulated with the last partner, with his or her ex, with him or her saying, my ex never did that to me. My ex never spoke to me that way. And you two mightn't even know each other. And this is a way of setting up a situation where the narcissist can make two people, dislike each other, compete against each other, and remain untouched. And it also puts the narcissist up on a pedestal. I'm just trying to think of some other examples, David. I mean, you can triangulate with people at work. It's just about setting up a situation, spreading a rumor, between two people, so that those two people don't go together. And the narcissist, and just gain a big fat platter of narcissistic supply out of setting up a situation where people are pitted against each other. Did you want to add to
Yeah.
that?
And it's a perfect example of what can cause shame. So it ties into what we're talking about, because in the context of intimate relationships, a partner where, security is an emotional need in all relationships. It's
Yeah,
necessary. You need that security, and you need
yeah,
to know that your partner has your back and that won't cheat on you, be faithful, and say good things about you. And so, you know, the narcissist will give you that false security. And the very next day could be triangulating you with a coworker and saying, just mentioning their name and saying that they flirted with me, they like me, or I just like them. I like how they are. I like how they look. They were pretty today. They look nice today. And it just throws that, it makes you very uncomfortable. You could have a fear of abandonment. You could have all these insecurities instead of security.
yeah,
So if you don't respond in a way that protects you, and this carries on, it will cause more shame, because you won't be happy with yourself, and there's a certain degree of kind of allowing that to happen, and you're gonna feel ashamed of yourself over time. They could be cheating on you, or let's say they did cheat on you, and they weren't held accountable for that, and they didn't apologize well enough and provide security back for you, and you kind of let it go, and you bring it up, and they threaten you, why are you talking about this? I told you I was sorry, but I didn't really do anything bad. And if you let that go, that's shame. You're going to feel like a bad person, and you're not going to want to even tell anybody it happened.
Yeah.
And the next time it happens, you may not be
Yeah.
you may not react very well. So triangulation, we need security in relationships. Single most important thing, I think. And
Absolutely.
we all have different needs, but that's a need of relationship needs. You have to have, especially intimate partners. You have to
Yeah.
know someone cares, someone has your back. They will represent you well and stuff like this. And bringing up other people's names in their relationship, people that or they know makes you uncomfortable. That becomes abuse. That
Yeah.
becomes abuse. Triangulation. Yeah.
Absolutely. And once again, you don't even have to know the other person. Just like you
No.
said, you could come home and say, "Oh, the guy in the restaurant, he keeps flirting with me every single time I go in there," and it just sets us, as you said, sets up a situation where you feel insecure. Now, no normal relationship, the partner's not in those sort of relationships do you want your partner to feel insecure, but a narcissist does. So because they get energy, it makes them feel powerful, it makes them feel good if you're jealous. So they want you on the back foot, they want you to feel insecure. And it can be it can be any kind of situation where they're just trying to um, just set up a situation so that someone feels insecure, they spread a rumor, and they can sit there and watch the drama unfold and get all of this energy from people being jealous and angry.
I know of situations, and I'm very confident that this was happening, that narcissists, where they are setting up false evidence of them cheating. They'll literally plant false evidence of their own self cheating just to provide that insecurity. So they will literally put something for the partner to find to make them doubt they might be cheating on me, but it's not total proof to leave them. And you know what I mean? And they're not cheating. I truly believe I knew the whole dynamics, and I knew that they probably weren't cheating, and that they were actually planting evidence just to make them insecure.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
incredible. Yeah.
It's amazing what they'll do. And, even commenting on and tagging people on social media, that can be a form of triangulation because they are trying to make you feel insecure. So they will intentionally bring someone into a status or comment on someone's status or put a photo up or a song, with someone else in it. And of course, if you pipe up and say something, then it will be, oh, you're jealous, you're insecure. I can't be with anyone who's just so jealous and can't relax with something that's just so insignificant. But it wasn't insignificant at all because it was designed to triangulate you with that person and to get a reaction from you. And the jealousy, the feelings of uneasiness about them talking to, a past wife or a past ex, they're all warranted. They are normal reactions, but of course, they will call you crazy for those normal reactions.
Yeah, and this just tears apart your self-worth. It knocks it down, lower and lower. And it just makes it impossible. It can make it impossible to make good decisions for yourself, to do the best thing for yourself when your self-worth is low. You're
Yeah,
counting on your partner. Yeah. It's it's
yeah,
it's horrific. It's abuse.
yeah. And the other thing, David, we know that happens with triangulation is this that when you become insecure, especially when you're trauma bonded and you're very, very addicted to the relationship, when you're insecure, when you're jealous, and you're having comments said to you like, oh, I've got people flirting with me, I've got people, looking at me all the time, whatever they're saying, it gets you to try harder. So the narcissist is getting extra, energy from you because not only are they watching you and enjoying you feeling insecure and feeling just horrible about yourself, they're also getting a big hit of narcissistic supply in you scrambling to get back up that ladder, to get back up that ladder to that golden era and just try harder and harder to please them. so that you become number one instead of the other person that they are triangulating you with.
That's right. Everybody has core insecurities. Everybody. And, some worse than others, of course. And they will exploit this because when they accuse you of being insecure, that's the time when they need to reassure you and provide security. And instead, they're blaming you for it, right?
Yeah,
And it's like, yeah, I'm insecure right now. You are not providing security in this relationship.
yeah,
And so it's their fault. They need to do this. And that's it, and it's mandatory in a relationship that there is security. And that means when needed, we provide reassurance. We reassure our partners.
yeah,
And that's not reassurance. When someone and you sit there accusing the partner of being insecure.
yeah.
Well, don't you find a certain responsibility to
Right.
provide that security to your partner? Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a big topic, isn't it? And guys, you can triangulate in so many different ways, but it's about, it's about creating drama, about making people feel insecure, and it's all about the narcissist getting, a big hit to their ego, and it's one of the biggest weapons in their arsenal. They all do it. Another one I just thought of, David, is what I call, probably read it somewhere, bringing in the troops. When the narcissist might say, "Oh, you're a terrible mother. Everyone agrees with me. Even your own mother said they think that you're a terrible mother," and they bring in the troops. So what does it do to your insecurities and your self-esteem? You start thinking, "Oh my goodness, everyone thinks that I'm crazy and I'm a bad person," and that's what it's designed to do, and it's all obviously. It's all false, made up, but just that when they say everyone agrees with me, it's just such a horrible thing to hear when you're already wounded.
That's right. This is a control tactic, and narcissists, like codependents and stuff like this, they want to feel in control, and sometimes if they aren't in control of their own lives, they'll try to control people's lives around them. If they can't control you, they will try to control people around you, and that's quite often why they air the dirty laundry to everybody. Look, 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 and they want people on their side, and so you don't have support. Without support, you can't fight back, you can't leave them, you can't do much.
Yeah, you're isolated, and and this compounds the shame, doesn't it? It's like I can't leave, I don't deserve to leave, and the
They
shame.
keep threatening me with this other person. They keep talking about this other person. They're spending time with this other person. They're cheating on me with this other person. And here it's been going on now, and I'm still staying with them. And I mean, talk about the shame. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a lot. Sometimes it's just too much to handle.
yeah,
And you'll start, shame will cause addictions. Addictions is caused from shame. Addiction, I truly believe, is not the source of your problems. It is a symptom of your problems. And we drink and we numb how we feel when it feels too bad, when we feel like too bad of a person. And you can see people walking around with this shame. And I think of it, and to me, it looks like a big wet blanket wrapped around them, and it weighs them down. And they look down on the ground. They don't really look you in the eye, and they just feel like horrible people, and they want to numb that, and that's hurting themselves.
yeah.
Yeah.
It really does. Shame really does beget more shame. I've hear of people who are so shame ridden that they sit around knowing that they stay in the relationship in some capacity, knowing full well that the narcissist is sleeping, cheating with someone else, and they can't leave. They're too ashamed to leave, and they stay, and they still give of themselves in every aspect to the narcissist, knowing that they're with someone else. And that's, once again, guys, that has got nothing to do with your weakness or anything wrong with you intellectually. This is part of the addiction, which is all interwoven in that shame.
That's right. I'm a bad person because someone's treating me badly, and that's not the case. And that's why shame doesn't just go away if I tell somebody, oh, well, that was wrong. That was bad. They shouldn't have treated you that way. That was wrong. That's not how shame goes away. It won't help. So I truly believe that shame is really misunderstood emotional pain. That somebody made you feel like a bad person, but what really happened is that person feels bad about themselves and mistreated you. And once you really understand that, that shame can be alleviated. One little thing our father could or mother could have said to us in our childhood can create a ton of shame. And we will remember that feeling 40, 50, 60 years. I've seen it, and it'll make them make bad choices for themselves forever,
Yeah.
until they finally understand this is why your father or mother said something bad to you. That's why they called you crazy or stupid or ugly and then you realize, oh, it's not because I'm a bad person. No, I was just treated bad, and it can go away. Yeah, it's really neat. The best way I try to help people understand the difference between shame and guilt, and what shame is I use an example of imagine a 10-year-old child in their room, and the father comes into their room and spanks the child every day. Spanks the child, doesn't say anything, and leaves the room. And that child's left to feel and wonder what that was for, and will always internalize that and come to the conclusion that I'm a bad kid, I'm a bad person. If the father comes in and tells the child, you did something wrong today, your mother said you did something wrong, and there's a punishment that follows when you do something wrong, so I'm going to spank you, spanks the child, and says, please don't do this again, and then leaves the room. It's all better. That's guilt. That's, I did a bad thing. You do your punishment and it's over because it's been explained to you that you're not a bad person. You just did something bad. And so that's the difference in that. And when that father comes into that child's room and spanks them every day and doesn't tell them why, and they're left to believe they're a bad person, they until they become to terms with that and truly understand it, what happened, they will feel like a bad person usually for the rest of their lives. They can.
Yeah, and then this
Yeah.
all ties in, David, with post-traumatic stress and complex post-traumatic stress disorder, because people talk about triggers from past trauma, childhood trauma, causing pain and just future trauma down the track. But it's not just a trigger, doesn't have to be something that we see or something that we hear. A trigger can stem from a feeling. We might just have a feeling of dread. When we see just for example, you're scared for some reason of men with beards. When you're a child, and you might see something that's really I don't know, something hairy or something like that, that it just gives you that feeling that you remember, and that also can bring about that shame, just that that feeling that you got at the same time that you were traumatized. So all of these things tie in to the shame that we feel now in trying to heal and remembering the trauma, and the shame we felt when we didn't know why we were being abused, but we just internalized it, as you said.
Yeah, a common step in recovery from this, I think, is people, my clients will tell me they're doing so well, I'm feeling so well, I have so much progress, and then boom, I don't know what happened. I just went all the way back to square one where I started, and that not understanding that, not having some self-compassion for what you've been through causes more shame. If you can't look it back and say, man, I've been through hell, and that's really what happened. You've been treated horribly for so long. If you can't understand that and look at yourself and give yourself some compassion, you will feel ashamed of yourself. You may very well may feel like, oh, I'm a horrible person. You get treated badly enough, you're traumatized for long enough, you will believe that you deserve it.
Yeah,
Very, very common human reaction. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, I'm going to answer some more. David, we've got Emily Simpson here. Hi, Emily. Uh, Emily says, my ex is a narcissist. No contact 10 months since we left. My 17-year-old my 17-year-old daughter is mimicking a lot of his behavior. I'm very concerned. How can I tell if this is just typical teenage behavior? If this is just typical teenage behavior or something more. Thanks. Did you want to talk to that one, David?
Typical teenage behavior. That's pretty big. That's pretty huge. But yeah, try to realize that a 17-year-old is still a child, still developing, still growing, and you know, an example I try to use is we all have known somebody in our high school years as teenagers that we went to school with. You guys ever seen somebody that was not the greatest person, treated people wrong, maybe kind of a bully, and then maybe later you see them in college or in your 20s, you see this person and they seem totally fine. They're not like that at all anymore. They may even apologize for the way they behaved. And that just goes to show that they weren't finished developing yet. And people will finish developing this emotional part of their life well into their adult life. And so, and that's the reason we don't diagnose children with a lot of personality disorders. We have to wait until they're adults because they can change. Children are malleable. They become what we form them to be. And my best recommendation is get help. Get help for yourself, get help for your child. Realize that they still are a child and that you still have say over things like this. And I hope that they will react to that, okay, and be willing to get some help and try to show your child the benefit that they will receive from this. Yeah,
Yeah.
really important, but it should be okay. Um, you know, this is a product, this is also a product of our own choices. So at some point in adolescence, you know, narcissists decide to not be the greatest people and to manipulate, lie, and stuff like this. So, um, you know, try to help your child have better male role models and stuff like this. Be around better men. Yeah, I think that's important. Be
Yeah.
involved in their life, show direction, goals.
Yeah.
Okay, good
Absolutely.
luck.
Everything David said, I'd probably just add to that that you're allowed to have boundaries as a parent. And if your child, your 17-year-old child, in when you say they're acting, when you say they're acting like, you know, the narcissistic parent, you're allowed to have boundaries. So let your child know, I guess, at an age appropriate level, what you will and won't accept in your house. Clearly, we always say don't denigrate the other parent, but yeah, you're allowed to have boundaries and you're allowed to say, hey, that's unacceptable in my house and I want to be treated with respect. But certainly everything David said with regard, to counselling, because narcissistic parents, that they do everything they can to mess with their kids' heads with the gaslighting. They're no different to their intimate partner. So if you can please get her into counselling, I think that will do the world of good. Yeah.
Yeah, if you can really show them the what happens from this type of behavior, right? The results of this, and show them maybe in their father. See, their father behaves like this, and show how problematic it is, so that they can see, be aware that I want to go down this road. I don't want to make these decisions and choices. I want to make good ones for myself. So you show the advantages of good choices and good decisions, the disadvantages of bad ones. Make that try to make it as clear as you can for them.
Yeah. Okay. We've got Charlene Billington there. Hi, Charlene. We've got Jules Keeley's here. Hi, Jules. Who else have we got? Um, um, Sorry, guys. We've got Vicky Morgan there, says, we can hear you fine, but it's pausing for her. Yeah, see, thanks, Vicky. It seems to be just on my end. Nothing I can do. It's a Facebook update glitch tonight. So sorry, guys. Just try and bear with me till the end of tonight's live stream. Hopefully be all right for next week. We've got Don Paris is there. Hi, Don. Kim Cleland is there. Mark. gosh, I'm just looking for another question. Everyone's talking to each other. Not tonight. We've got Litza Spiri there. Hi, Litza. Litza says, what's the difference between, here's one for you, David. What's the difference between a narcissist and a borderline?
Sure, two different personality disorders. There's 10 altogether, and these are both in the cluster B. They're divided into 3 different clusters, and the cluster B that has 4 different disorders, which have borderline and narcissistic, is considered the wild cluster. So I would say main differences, I can go on and on about the similarities, and they are very similar.
There's a lot of overlap, but there's some distinct differences, isn't there?
Yeah, there sure are. And it's not hard to look these up. So there's different traits for each disorder, different criteria. Some of the main would be things like and a sense of entitlement. Narcissists have a sense of entitlement, sense of grandiosity, sense of self-importance in relationships. Things like only a few understand me. I'm so unique. I'm so special. And that's a major difference between the borderline and narcissist. Whereas the borderline doesn't feel so unique, so special, so grandiose. But there again, now you can have overlap, and it gets confusing. You can have borderlines that are very high in narcissism. You can have somebody that has both disorders. There are people that are diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder and borderline personality disorder, and that's because they meet the criteria of each one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say those are the major differences. Is that kind of addicted to feeling so special, so unique. I'm the most important one here in the room all the time. Borderlines don't feel that way, and if they do, that would mean that they're now high on the narcissistic spectrum, but that is not considered a borderline or borderline traits.
Yeah. And what about the attachment style with regard to, like you said, the narcissist, it's all about me, 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 me. The world revolves around me, which and this, I guess, is where it gets confusing. It's the same with a borderline, only the borderline attaches to the person and won't let that person out of their sight. And everything becomes, their world becomes around that person.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. The borderline will traditionally attach too quickly, too fast. Get enmeshment immediately. Yeah, the narcissist can commonly have that push away when they become attached, push you away. Very common. Yeah.
Yep. So I hope that's explained it, guys. Okay, we've got Tanya Saccone there. Hi, Tanya. We've got Lizzie James there. Hi, Lizzie. Okay. Don says, why is it sometimes called an addition? I think you might mean addiction, Don. I hope that's what you mean. And how can you break the cycle? Okay, Don. Being with a narcissist, we call it, I guess, we're always saying that you become addicted in these relationships because of the nature of trauma bonding. Trauma bonding stems from the manipulations, the strategies that the narcissist uses, which is a push-pull, I want you, I don't want you, I want you, I don't want you, which comes at an pause again, which comes on an intermittent schedule. So you never know when they're going to be throwing out the love bombing. So you basically, this is the most powerful way to get someone to do what you want. And that's what gets you addicted to the relationships, is the strategies that they use. They throw out all that love bombing in the beginning, which changes the chemicals in your body. You become addicted to the high, I guess, of the happy chemicals, the happy hormones. And then when they start to devalue you, you crash. Now, this up-down roller coaster of emotions is addictive, okay? It's as addictive as heroin or any drug. Throw in the intermittent reinforcement schedule, which is they will throw out that love bombing when it looks like you're going away, but you don't know when it's coming. So you will people will stay ad infinitum because they never know when they never know when they're going to be reinforced with the love bombing. Exactly the same as someone sitting at a slot machine or a poker machine and staying there all night, because they'll get a hit and then they will stay thinking that the next one's just around the corner. And it's, I guess, the same principle. It's intermittent reinforcement. Throw in all those things together and it creates a very, very powerful addiction. And it's all tied up in what we call trauma bonding. And this is something that we have to work on to break that addiction, so that, and break away and realize why you keep going back, why you're having cravings. It's because of they're in withdrawal, isn't it, David? And yeah, it's so similar to being hooked on any kind of drug. I suppose it's very addictive.
Very well said. And addictions cause shame, don't they? Every time you go back to this relationship, you're ashamed of yourself. Every time you know that they treated you bad, they're and you're putting up with it, or you're even trying to get back together with them after they just hurt you, it causes shame. So we get addicted to this. I'm trying to think of anything I can add. You know, we get addicted to the hormones in our head. There's a few different hormones. I call them happy hormones. They make us feel really, really good. The addictive element of drugs, narcotics, alcohol, it's not so much the chemical. Our body can become dependent on this chemical, but we enjoy the high of our own hormones. And just like every time something goes up, it's got to come back down. And eventually that high from drugs comes down, just like this relationship. And you can be, you know, these hormones can go up and down in just minutes with a narcissist. They can make you feel like you're on top of the world. And don't worry, I'm never going to leave you. It's like you and I against the world. But then 5 minutes later, it's not so much like that. Now there's also, now Stacy and Lisa are also involved in your relationship. Now it's the four of you for the rest of your life. And now your hormones are all the way back down here. And that fall is devastating. When you're completely gone, all these hormones, it's very bad. It's a very, very bad feeling. It's hard to cope with and deal with, and it's hard to pick ourselves back up again. And we become dependent on that. We can't do it ourselves anymore. We go back, and we need that. We need that. And how do you know it's affected you? Well, when the relationship is over, and you can sit there logically tell me, I don't want this person back. I can't stand them. You know, but in your head, you're like, I want this person back. I want to go back to them. Why? I can't stand them. But yet I'm yearning for it. I want it. I want them. I want to know what they're doing. I went and looked on Facebook. I went and see, you know, there was someone else. It's killing me. I want that. I want that back. Because addiction to anybody, addiction becomes number one in your life. And you will do all kinds of things for that addiction. And you don't even realize you're addicted to that. It's dangerous. You'll put everything else aside. You won't care about your own family, children. Addiction, number one, will become number one.
Have to prioritize it. You must look at breaking away from this relationship, like breaking away from the worst possible drug in your life. You must make it number one in your life to break this addiction. And that requires putting support strategies in place, you know, basically battening down those hatches and going cold turkey and just getting surrounded by as much support as you possibly can. Yeah, I guess what we're talking about is withdrawal, aren't we, David? When you're talking about, you know, I tell people I hate them and why would I want to be with them? But on the inside, I'm yearning and I just want to unblock my phone and I just want to talk to them. What we're talking about is withdrawal and cravings. And, you know, I guess because we're talking about shame, we're talking about shame tonight. What happens when any person who's addicted to drugs, you know, gets away from it for a little while and then, you know, gives in and they go back? What do they experience? Shame. And right. Created by the abuser who got you addicted through the manipulations that they use. And, you know, part of that addiction in the end becomes the fact that this person who got you addicted to them through that push-pull and the intermittent reinforcement of, you know, the love bombing, the very person who got you addicted to the abuse becomes the only person who can come in like a knight in shining armor, to relieve the symptoms of the abuse, which is,
Yeah.
you know, the anxiety, the massive cravings from the withdrawal. So what a powerful, you know, toxic situation to be in, and it's certainly obviously a good one for the abuser, than one where you are hooked, you are addicted to someone, and they are the only one who can relieve the anxiety, which is the symptoms from the abuse that they created. It's this absolutely hideous situation that requires you to absolutely prioritize it to break the cycle.
Yeah, and anyone in the world can, become addicted to something, succumb to addictions. But like I said before, addiction is a symptom of shame. So how we feel about ourselves. So if you enter a relationship because you carry around some shame, right, you're so much more susceptible to having an addiction in this bad relationship because there's something you're missing. If you carry around shame, you feel bad about yourself. Here comes a narcissist, picks you up, makes you feel good about yourself. You see?
Yeah, very, very
And we all
addictive.
hold on to that hope. We hold on to that hope. I can talk to somebody who's been married 10 years and it's been horrible for 9. And they'll say, yeah, but in the beginning it was great. It's like, man, that was 10 years ago. You
Yeah,
hold on to that forever. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so I hope that has kind of explained to you, Don, why it's called an addiction, and an addiction requires, yeah, you guys or people who are stuck in these relationships or still having those cravings to prioritize it in their life and look at it as an addiction, something that they will need to, yeah, basically go cold turkey from, because there is no weaning off a narcissist like you can with potentially with another drug.
And something very, very, very important to be aware of is when you start intimate relationships with somebody, it shouldn't be based on trauma. So we don't enter relationships with somebody and immediately start divulging all this trauma and abuse that each of you endured your whole life, or the past relationship, or your childhood. That's not how relationships start, but that is the beginning of a trauma bonding, because now both of you are affected by trauma so much, you obviously haven't healed, if that's the importance of what you're talking about mostly in the beginning of the relationship, or that's the thing you have in common is abuse and trauma. You're going down that road of trauma bonding. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Um, we've got James Millsick here. Hope I've pronounced that okay, James. James says, I'm not really a firm believer of loving yourself brings a good relationship. I make a good amount of pay within the army and I've got to focus on myself. But the truth is that every time that I've done this, more people come out of great than those coming out of love unconditional. I don't know. I'm really not sure what you mean by that, James. Did you make that out, David?
I think I didn't understand it totally, but I think he's saying the concept of love yourself, he says doesn't work for him, or he doesn't believe in that. And
Yeah,
that's okay. That's fine. But it's very concept, and that is, I'm going to treat myself how I feel about myself. And so if I love myself, then I'm going to treat myself as such. And that means treating myself good, giving myself what I need, and not allowing other people to treat me bad. And then the people in my life also have to treat me like they love me as I do. And if you don't love yourself, it's harder for others to love you. Trust me.
yeah,
If the way that you live your life doesn't show that you love yourself, that's what other people will see. I promise.
yeah. Okay, we've got Kylie Gavin there. Hi, Kylie. Okay, let me just open up your question. Kylie says, hello to you both. Hey, Kylie. I haven't been traveling too well lately. Seeing him with his new family, it upset me so much that I embarrassed myself at the supermarket. Had a massive anxiety attack. Thank God I had someone I know see I wasn't good and she took me down. Sorry. is that pausing again? She took me down the back of the store and said she'll come and get me when they leave. She said he does not need to feed his ego seeing you like this. Oh my goodness. He lives in another town and comes to the town I live in to do some work. I've had to pull myself up massively. I truly believed I was over his hurt he gave me, but obviously I'm not. It's a stain I can't remove. 10 years it's been since he cheated and walked out. I'm so over this. They say forgive and move on. Everything will be okay. I cannot forget, can't see I'll ever heal. I'm kidding myself. He's really destroyed my soul so much. Oh my goodness, Kylie, I'd love to know how you were before you saw him in that store, because obviously that, you know, PTSD, all those kinds of things triggered, you know, triggered something in you. And this is why, you know, no contact is just so incredibly important, because, you know, our body remembers the feelings that we felt, you know, that horror that we experience when we're in, you know, right in the trauma zone. So yeah, I'd love to know how you felt before you actually saw him in the store. But yeah, I'm so sorry that that had to happen to you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Kylie. It's interesting. So, I mean, here we go again, right? We're ashamed of our reaction, and we've got to understand it and have some compassion for ourselves and realize we've been through hell. This is our reaction. We're human beings, and we
Yeah.
react differently. And you know, so my question, Kylie, is what? Try to really look at what you have done to feel better about being treated so badly. So this is you're a product of somebody treating you horribly, maybe for a long time. So 10 years later, it's still affecting you. And it's because you're a human being and it does that to us. And it does that to us forever until we process what happened, until we understand and learn the truth of why this happened. So my question is to you, what have you done since you've been treated so horribly until today? What have you done about it? What have you what kinds of things have you done to make yourself feel better? Because if you haven't, then you're still going to believe you're a horrible person because you were treated badly. And it's going to affect you forever until you come to terms with this. You know, memories, guys, we only remember things that has emotion attached to it. All the things you don't remember long time ago, it's because it wasn't emotionally significant enough for you. So emotion, such as shame, something that makes us a person, that will stay with you forever. That is like an open chapter in your life, and you can't ignore it. You can't suppress it. You can't numb it. It will be there forever. You have to face it and deal with it and learn and understand what that is. So I have clients, I go back 40 years. I've gone, 40 years. This happened, and then they understand what really happened. They're a good person still. They were just treated badly. Once they really get that, they can close that chapter and move on. But we can't move on until we've closed that chapter, until we understand. So when people tell you you need to move on, we all know that doesn't work. It doesn't work. And you can get back on that horse and keep getting back on every time you fall off, as long as you feel okay about it. Because if one of those times you fell off, you don't feel okay about it, you feel like a bad person, I promise you it'll stay with you forever.
Yeah.
Forever. Yeah. And I'm sorry, Kylie. So really try to it's never been too long. This will keep happening until you really process the suffering you went through and understand how bad it was, and that your reaction is your reaction, and that you were simply treated badly. You're not a bad person. Once you really understand that, this will go away. I promise.
Yeah.
It'll stop.
Yeah. And I guess, you know, looking at it from another angle, Kylie, is, you know, perhaps, you know, you saw your abuser in the store that day for this, you know, for this very reason, for what David was kind of just talking about, in that here's like a mirror. You know, that the narcissist is kind of like a mirror standing in front of us, showing us our wounds. you know, and he's there, and he showed you that you still haven't worked through this. You still haven't processed this trauma. So your abuser has come back. He's kind of like that. He's kind of like the mirror standing in front of you saying, these are your wounds. These are your wounds that you need to look at and you need to address. And when the narcissist is with us, see those wounds and they tear them open and they rip them open. Perhaps that's why that you saw him that day, so that he could let you know that you need to process this stuff, and that shame is not yours to bear, and you need to work through that, because you're not a bad person, but you were abused by a bad person.
Yeah, treated badly. That's all. We just all want to be good people. So when you look at this experience you had when you saw your ex and it made you feel so bad and you felt so weak, you've got to come to the truth, and the truth will always be that you're still a good person. That's the truth. If you leave it at you're a bad person and not understand it, it'll stay like that forever. I promise. So the truth is you were treated horribly, and it's impacted you for this long. And you're a human being that reacts to trauma and abuse like other human beings would and do. Period. So
Yep, exactly. Okay, we've got Katie. You've down there. Hi, Katie. Katie says, can you ever form a healthy relationship with a narcissist? Ever? Or are we all destined to leave our partners anyway? Because obviously we are all involved, we all care, and we all want to know. You can form a relationship. Katie, can you form a healthy relationship? I'm just going to say no, because a healthy relationship is based on trust. A healthy relationship is based on empathy, being able to, understand if the person you're with is in pain, if you've done something wrong. That's what a healthy relationship is all about. So, in the true sense of the word, no, you can never have a healthy relationship with someone who is devoid of any capacity to have empathy and who you can't trust. And as you know, you cannot trust a narcissist. That's the last thing you should give them, is your trust. Yeah. David, did you want to add to that?
well, I don't need to say can you. I'm just going to say because I know that you're not asking because you're thinking that you maybe like to date a narcissist in the future. I know that this has to do with an ex or current. And so what I'll say is the reason you're asking is I believe you've been abused, mistreated, traumatized. And so I'm going to tell you for a fact that relationship is over. There is no hope. It's done. It's
Yeah.
end. You've got to end it. And I hope you have. And I hope that, I can kill your hope right now that he's not going to change for you, that he's not the way you want him to be, that he's not going to go back and do the things that you would like him to. And that's the reality and truth of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So we want to change people. We want to change people that don't want to be changed. We want to do the work for people that don't want to do the work. And so what the reality is that you've been treated badly by a human being and they need to be out of your life because there's certain things that we can work through and work out, right? And your partner, I truly believe I don't appreciate cheating, but I believe that a relationship can probably work through. It's possible to work through when someone cheats. Okay, it's possible for a relationship to survive and work through lying, single incidences, stuff like this. But affairs for 10, 20 years, cheating multiple times. The person that does it isn't apologetic, isn't remorseful, doesn't make you feel better about it, continues to do it, and you want them to change. You're trying to get them to go to counseling. Now, this person has objectified you. At least you're an object to them. They don't care who you are. You're easily replaceable. They will not respect your feelings, your opinions any longer. And I don't see how somebody can abuse a person and then gain respect for them afterwards. I don't see that, and I'm not going to try and wait around for that, and I don't suggest anybody else does. I
Yeah.
think I think once there's abuse, the relationship is over. Over.
Yeah. Yeah. And because of, I guess, exactly what we're talking about tonight, the shame, the addictive nature of the relationship. We will cling on to anything because it's so painful to think of being without that, which we have become very, very addicted to, which takes up a massive part of our life. It is just, it's too overwhelming and too painful to think of never being with that person again because of all these feelings we don't understand, which is wrapped up in that addiction and the shame and the trauma bonding. So it's really normal to ask ourselves, maybe they're not a narcissist. Maybe I can have a healthy relationship with them. Maybe if I change and, this bargaining goes on and I do something better, then, the relationship will be healthy. And it's just clinging onto straws so that we don't have to address that massive decision to leave our addiction forever. That's a huge thing it's quite overwhelming to think that we won't be without, the source of our addiction ever again. But we have to, that's why we have to, change the way we think. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Addictions cloud our awareness and judgment. Yeah. And we'll protect it. We'll protect it no matter how bad it is for us. You'll
Yeah.
see drug addicts and alcoholics do this all the time. You'll see them decline and go downhill so fast, and you try and tell them, and they're just clueless. They won't look at it. It's fine. I got this all under control. No big deal. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got it under control. All my friends, I don't drink as much as any of them do, or they go, yeah, I'm an alcoholic, so what? Everyone drinks, who cares? And they get to that stage where they just don't care at all because they know that it's just too painful to think of giving up the addiction, so they give up and they just come to terms with the fact, yeah, like victims sometimes do come to the terms of, this is my life, this is as good as it gets, and that shame keeps them there because they haven't yet been told, I guess, that the reason they're feeling that way is because of the abuser and the way they have been manipulated and brainwashed. I think I keep saying this, the reason you don't know that you're being brainwashed and that you do not know that you're being gaslighted and that you do not know you're being pathologically lied to is because you've been brainwashed and you've been gaslighted and you've been pathologically lied to. So these are why you don't see the fact that you've become addicted, and you just look at how painful it is to leave, and you really haven't come to terms with why you are feeling that pain in leaving your abuser. But yeah.
Cognitive dissonance, right? I mean, plays a huge part in addiction. It has to. You can't have an addiction for years and it tear apart your life, and you consciously and aware of it doing that. So I'm going to lie to myself. Nope, that's not that bad. No, it's okay. I just ran into an old friend the other night. He's sitting there. I saw him at a bar, and I walked up to the bar, said hi to him. He's telling me how he quit smoking and drinking. And I saw right there he was smoking a cigarette and having a glass of wine, but he's telling me how he quit. It's like, okay, all right. But that's addiction. That's cognitive dissonance. We all do it. We all have it. We all do it to some degree.
Yeah.
We all go through the drive-through and get the supersized fast food meal, and we want Diet Coke because we're on a diet, and we do that all day. We do that to ourselves. Yeah.
Makes me feel better when I have my quarter pounder. Okay. Vicky says, hold on, we've got Emma Whiting there. Hi, Emma. Emma says, wow, it's so nice to hear this from a gentleman. I have given myself the opportunity to talk with anyone. I haven't given myself the opportunity to talk with anyone in this context since my ex left. Still feel very mentally stuck. And that's what's so important, to get help and get support. Emma, this is really hard to try and do on your own. Yeah, you need people around you.
it can be more damaging to try to do this all alone. It can, people cause this, guys. People cause this to you, and people can help you, and people can make it worse. But you isolating, I'm telling everybody, worst thing you can do. And I'm not trying to cause any more shame, guilt, or fear or anything. Just stop. Try to stop. We give ourselves time. We need privacy. We need autonomy. We need to relax and things like this. But we need people. We need people. Don't isolate. Okay.
And yeah, look, if you don't have family or friends who get it, and look, let's face it, most don't. Most people just do not understand the nature of narcissistic abuse. It's very hard to explain to someone who hasn't been through it. If you have got no one that understands it, there are support groups on Facebook. Find a counsellor who gets it. There are some of us out there, but it's very important to find a counsellor who understands specifically the nature of narcissistic abuse. But yeah, don't try and do it on your own, Emma. You really, really need to have, all hands on deck, and just be surrounded by support.
Yeah, the best thing you could do is have as many people on your team for you cheering you on as you can. And if you have to hire them, even better.
Yeah. Okay, all right, we might just answer a couple more, David. Once again, guys, sorry about the glitches on Facebook tonight with my screen pausing, but hopefully Facebook will address that during the week and it'll all be fixed up before next week. Okay, who else have we got here? Hello to. Oh my goodness. We've got Tracy Croft there. Hi, Tracy. Mark's there. Hi, Mark. Mark says, hi, guys. I'm getting quite a few friend requests with subtle hints they may be from my NARC. That is area and friends in common after 2 years. Yeah, well, look, Mark, I never accept friend requests from people I don't know. And if you know it's not someone that, if you know it's not someone that is an actual friend of yours, then obviously decline, block them, because it's highly likely, or it could be your ex stalking you, and especially if you're getting that vibe, trust your gut instinct. As we know, in a relationship with a narc, we get conditioned, we get taught to not trust our gut instinct. So if that's the vibe you're picking up, believe your gut instinct and do not take them on.
Yeah, that's what people with personality disorders are commonly known to do. I mean, you're talking about people that high impulsivity and react immediately. And they have thoughts, I want to contact them, I want to talk to them. What are they doing? And they react immediately. So high impulsivity makes them do stuff like this. They don't care about boundaries. They don't respect you or your boundaries, right? So who cares? Yeah, most likely it is, because that just doesn't happen. I don't get random people I don't know constantly requesting me. The best thing you could do, I'm telling you, turn it off for a little while.
Yeah.
Switch it off for a little while, maybe. Start a new account or something.
Yeah. Okay, we got Faye Mitsa. Say hi, Faye. Who else? We got Lorraine Macbeth there. Hi, Lorraine. Who else have we got that I haven't said hello to? We got Sean Bible there. Hi, Sean. Sean says, my experience wasn't a personal relationship, but a narc and a path work scenario. Being the man out isn't fun. Yeah. And yeah, as we know, this doesn't happen in intimate relationships, does it? And in fact, it can be even more difficult sometimes in a work relationship, because your pay, you're going to work gives you your pay each week. So it can be really hard to manage a narcissistic boss, can't it, David? And the dynamic that goes with that.
Yeah, I mean, take it a step further. Psychopaths and sociopaths, all you need to do is be in proximity range of them, and they'll damage you and exploit you. Everyone. That's all they do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can just be near one, close to one, and it hurts you. It damages you. It changes you. I knew there's a story of a journalist who interviewed a psychopath in prison, a convicted murderer. He interviewed him, on the other side of the glass. He visited him in prison. He would ask him questions for up to an hour once a week. This carried on for a few months until he was done with the interview. And after he was finished with the interview, he was a completely different person. He threw all of religion away. He lost his family, and he had to be treated for PTSD.
Wow.
Because he was just too close in proximity to a psychopath, which is narcissist. Yeah.
That is just incredible, isn't it? You know, stories like that are just, yeah, it kind of reminds me, David, of the Stockholm, bank robbery, where, that term Stockholm syndrome comes from. Just the power that these people have. Guys, you haven't heard of, this is where trauma bonding comes from. Stockholm, 76, 78, can't remember, bank heist, took hostages. These hostages, through the manipulations of the captors, started to align with the captors, and the captors started to talk to them about their life and be nice to them. So the very people who abused them by taking them hostage, ripping them away from their family and friends, terrorizing them, they didn't even know if they were going to live. These people became the ones that were bringing them cups of tea, talking to them about their children, and this alliance, this weird enmeshment formed where the abuser became the one to make the abusee feel better. And then the hostages started to think of the captors as human beings. And it's just amazing, the power that they
became a willing participant, a compliant victim due to that trauma bond. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the amazing ability to influence other people. It's absolutely incredible.
It's
Okay.
exploiting people's core vulnerabilities. Period. Yeah.
Okay, we've got Ashkasha. Hi, Jar there. Hi, Ashkasha. Who else have we got? Katrina Dean's there. Hi, Katrina. So I said this. Anyone I haven't said hello to? Beck Feeney's there. Okay, we might end annoying. We might end with yours, Beck. We've got Lanya Sinu there. Hi, Lanya. Kim Collins is there. Hi, Kim. And Daniela Bianchi's there. Hi, Daniela. So where did yours go? Beck, there you are. So might end with Beck's tonight. Beck says, what about if you have kids to them? So you have to have some form of contact. Okay. We get asked this every week, Beck, because obviously so many people go through it, and they want to go no contact, because, David and I are always talking about going no contact. But, what do you do when you can't? So that's when you have to form your own strategies around giving the narcissist the least possible reaction, minimizing that contact. If you're still talking to them on the phone, block them. Block them on the phone, get an email account. Do not be seeing them face to face at drop-offs and pickups. Don't react to their provocations. They will be provoking you. They will be sending the kids home with messages. Don't listen to this. Just remember that the children are a connection to your narcissist, and they will use those children. They will objectify them and use them to get narcissistic supply from you. So it's about going grey rock, which is like a rock. We call it grey rock because what does a rock do? Nothing. You give them no reactions whatsoever. If you must have contact on an email, you say yes, no, one word responses. Only stuff about the kids. Do not react to provoking about your bad motherhood or your bad fatherhood. It's all about minimizing that narcissistic supply, your reactions, so that they stop trying to get them from you and they go somewhere else. David, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, that's a really good point at the end, what you said, because I want you to know that this gets easier as time goes on. It should. You are impacted by the trauma, by the abuse as well. So you're suffering from this, you're recovering from this. As you do, it will become easier for you. If this was someone you didn't know, it would be a lot easier. So the key here is to really understand really have awareness of what you're dealing with. This isn't a normal person. This is somebody with a personality disorder. Narcissistic, in particular, takes divorce typically horribly. Now, we all don't like divorce, but you're talking about potential collapsed narcissism. You're talking about somebody that has put everything on status, on their identity, might put everything on this. Now they've lost this. Someone who has a poor sense of self already, possibly. So be aware of what you're dealing with. Be aware of what to expect. You are not co-parenting or parallel parenting. This is another undeveloped child you're dealing with that you decided to have children with. And so, but you know, the children will grow up. They're going to reach an age, and it's going to be over. It's going to get easier to deal with, but be very aware and cautious and teach yourself what you're dealing with. And your children should as well. This is the one instance where I think it's okay to tell your children what's going on and what they're dealing with. And I don't mean your relationship, your marriage, your divorce. I'm talking the child father relationship they have. You can let them know what's going on without speaking badly of him, of their father. Don't do that. But the children need to be very aware of what's going on too and how to handle a narcissistic father. Yeah, really
Yeah.
important. And
Yeah.
therapy, therapy, therapy. I always say, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. If you can get the kids into counselling, please do that. Yeah, very important point you made, David, which was you can't co-parent. And this is something that
No.
people really, really struggle with, and that's why they think they have to have contact with them because, well, they're the child's parent. I have to talk to them about football games and report cards and things like that. And in a perfect world if you had a non-disordered ex, yeah, I strongly suggest being amicable, getting together in the same room to come because you have a common goal, which is to do the best thing for the children. So that's a win-win situation for you both. With a narcissist, it's always win-lose. It has to be. It's always win-lose. So the narcissist will never enter into a discussion about what's best for the kid. It will be, how can I stir you up and create drama? Okay, so you will never, ever be able to co-parent with them. And I have found that in counseling, people who have, and I know David experiences this too, that people actually come to some kind of, if you will, kind of sense of peace when they finally realize that, wow, I am never going to be able to co-parent with this person, because then you can get on with your life and work out the strategies to manage your life without co-parenting, and because a narcissist will only ever counter parent. They will counter anything you do because they don't want you to get your way, and to think you've won. They must win, so you have to work out the strategies that you're going to employ so that you get your needs met and the children get their needs met. But that will never happen from co-parenting. It may happen, years down the track, that you do what I call, you're in a position where you're able to do what I call manipulating the manipulator, in that if you need little Johnny to get to a football game or something like that, you ring or text, email the narcissist and say, oh, little Johnny just loves you watching him play. He would really, really love you to go. Oh, that's annoying. And you appeal to them. You appeal to their ego. You stroke their ego. But why are you doing that? You're doing that to get your needs met and to get little Johnny's needs met. So when you get to a position, and that's a long way off, when you've healed, that may be possible. But right now, you have to look at cutting that narcissistic supply off and forgetting about co-parenting. Yeah.
Yeah, really important. Take care of yourself. You come first, okay? I mean, this is going to change. This has to change from how it's been. So you can't succumb to them and do what they want and give them what they want. And it's about what you want and what you need. Really important. Really, really important. Yeah. I mean, you're dealing with another child here, another child. Another
Yeah.
child. He's so if you, anything you want, make sure that you show a benefit for him, that there's something that benefits him, and
Yeah.
also always make him believe it's his idea, and you'll get more. You'll get what you want more. Yeah.
What is the narcissist? Why does the narcissist do anything? It's to, to have that false mask reinforced. It's to stroke their ego. Everything is about their ego. So if you can appeal to their ego, once again, way down the track when you've healed, then that's how you do it. You appeal to their ego. You may, after you've sent off that email or that text, you may want to go and vomit because you've had to, be nice to the person. But it's about you getting what you need for you to make you a happy parent, and to make your kids happy. I've seen this happen when, narcissistic parents will refuse to have their children, on a Friday or Saturday night, not because they're doing anything, but simply to stop the other parent from having any kind of social life, or to be able to go out and potentially meet someone else. They will just refuse to have their own children. So yeah, it's about working out your strategies to get your needs met, to make you the happiest parent, to make the kids get what they need, but obviously, not factoring that narcissistic supply in when you don't want to. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, and don't speak badly of them, but this is like if Dad had he was suffering from some type of disease, you know, let's say I don't know, some disease, it affects the children and the children don't understand. So you're going to explain to the children why Dad does this and what's wrong with him, but you're going to do it nicely. So your father has a personality disorder. It comes out like this, and he might say things like this that hurt you. And I want you to understand this. And the appropriate way to respond or react to this is not react too much, and to, get them to understand. You know him better than anybody else. So I think it's important to help your children understand what's going on, so they don't have this shame and guilt and bad feelings and feel like they're a bad person because Dad's treating them badly. Yeah.
Okay, guys, we might leave it there. It's been an amazing night. David, thank you so much for joining us here as per usual. I'm sure Facebook will have sorted out the glitch by next time, but it only seems to be on my end, so everyone's been able to listen to you, which is the main thing tonight. So yeah, guys, everyone that follows Brighter Outlook, this is going to drop out in a second. So I will just press resume when it does. Everyone who follows Brighter Outlook, please jump on David's Speak of the Devil. Please jump on David's YouTube channel, which is called Demar's Coaching. David puts out videos every week. He's an amazing wealth of knowledge, as you know, from tonight around, narcissistic personality disorder, how to heal, recover, and other cluster B personality disorders, and lots more. So thank you, David. And yeah, guys, please subscribe to David's channel. I'm sure he'll put the link in the comments for you to find it. So yeah, David, thank you once again. And David is here every second Tuesday night. The live streams are on every Tuesday night. Next week you got me. David will be back with me to co-host the show the week after. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Nova. Thank you very much. And everybody, Nova and I are doing these videos free to help you guys out. Could you please help us and support us just by clicking, subscribing, stuff like this. I'm going to have links to Nova's YouTube channel and Facebook channel for you guys to follow and just support it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having me, Nova. Thank you, everybody.
My pleasure. The other thing, guys, you can do is to share. World Narcissistic Abuse Awareness Day is on Saturday. It's only a few days away, and this is our chance to really, really flog this, for want of a better word, and get people talking about it. So yeah, if you can, please share private support groups, anywhere you can do that with David and I would really appreciate it.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. All right, David. Thank you. Take care. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Great. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you, David. Bye. Okay, now if it drops out again, guys, I'll just quickly hit resume. But yeah, oh, how annoying was that? Facebook. Speak of the devil again. It does this when Facebook's updating you. They do not warn you about it. So yeah, we've just had to bear with it tonight. So thank you so much for hanging in there. But at least you got David the whole time. That's the main thing. So yeah, guys, thank you for a wonderful night. For those of you who don't know, I'm a professional counsellor on the north side of Brisbane, and my area of expertise is in helping victims and survivors of narcissistic abuse to recover, move on from their trauma, to break away from abusive relationships if they're still in them, if you're still trauma bonded, if you're out, if you've been discarded, if you've managed to flee the abuse. I can help you work through that trauma. So please inbox me if you would like to have a one-on-one private session. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. I Skype people, counsel people via Skype all over the world. Yeah, Skype, for those of you who are worried if you don't have it, it's just an app. It's just an app that you download on your phone for free. It's really easy. Just like Facebook, very easy to use. Skype is. So yeah, if you'd like to have a one-on-one session with me, please just inbox me. I would love to be able to support you. Thanks for all your support with Brighter Outlook. You make the page what it is, and everyone, please don't forget, I'll be putting stuff up, but please don't forget World Narcissistic Abuse Awareness Day. Just Google it if you want a little bit more information about it before then. June the 1st. Every year, June the 1st is World Narcissistic Abuse Awareness Day. So please, yeah, if you can, share, that would be wonderful. Okay, everyone, please have a wonderful week. Take care. I will be back next Tuesday night. Please tell as many people as you can. And don't forget to join me next Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Brisbane, Queensland, Australia time. Take care. Remember your worth, and then add tax. Bye, everyone.